whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing.
Welcome to the AI Riff, where we cut through the noise and break down the top AI stories of the week with real talk and real relevance. No hype, no fluff, just a vendor-agnostic take on what's actually shaping your world today. Whether you're in tech, lending, or just trying to make sense of the headlines, we're here to separate the wheat from the chaff and the facts from the fiction. Now let's get this started with your hosts, Mario Diabenedetto, Rob Katz, and me, Kyle Myers. We hope you enjoy this episode of the AI Riff.
Welcome to episode Kyle Can't Drive
55. My hair is not quite as long as Sammy Hagar's, but
I see your hair blowing in the wind, Kyle.
Yeah, it blew off. So at episode 55, we have a previous guest, but we left the door open and Ben Sizemore walked in. Ben, how are you doing?
Doing fine. I'm dodging that Ferrari you're driving 55.
That's,
Step in.
Thankfully they raised the speed limits in Arizona. What's it now, 80, Rob?
It feels like you can go 80 and get away with it.
Yeah. So it's all good. Well, with that note, with Ben on board here and Rob here and I'm here, Mario, what we got?
So it's almost like we're going back to like episode 1 because we're actually going to talk about a release of one of the models. Okay. We're going to talk about the fact that OpenAI released GPT 5.6, which in their post where they announced it was basically 8,000 words that boiled down to it's smarter, faster, cheaper, and it makes lots of nice, cool spreadsheets and PowerPoints.
Yeah. I thought it was going to go into the slicing of bread faster. It's that it could bake the bread, slice the bread, eat the bread, and make you feel like you were full. It was everything to everybody and anybody. But it was written by ChatGPT. So,
by the way, do you guys know that Claude actually writes its own blog?
No, I did not know that.
Well, Claude has its own blog that it writes, and it just picks topics. That's not what you would expect. I mean, it's still AI geek stuff, but anyway. So, and this is right off the heels of our XL episode, 54, where we were on the other end of the spectrum, right? Where we were talking about open source and that it was costing too much for these models and you get locked into these big models. And I don't know, my super boiled down the 5.6 release. And the reason I wanted to talk about it was like, I can see how easy it is to get enticed to say, I want to use OpenAI and ChatGPT because they just throw so much stuff in here. It's unbelievable. Like it really is unbelievable how much they pack into these releases now.
See, I'd like to get Rob's perspective because honestly, Rob uses GPT a lot. And then I want to hear what he has to think about it because I'm a Claude user primarily. So I just want to see what he has to say about it first. And then I'm going to tag on and see what I can come back with because Claude seems to be behind the 8 ball on these, according to the article. You're muted. Sorry.
You got to unmute though.
Yeah.
There we go. So I am excited about this release because of all the things that it claims that it does. What's interesting is that there's many things that are in here that are interesting, but if you dovetail off of the extra large episode that we had, one of the questions that came to my mind was, am I really going to notice a difference? Right? Like they're all good now. So now it's better, but is that delta of how it's going to be better going to be something that I can actually recognize? My biggest challenge that I'm running into with ChatGPT in my current work environment right now is the lack of speed. The amount of time it is processing and thinking, and even it's generative. So every word comes out one at a time. It's like slow generating, and I log out and reboot my machine and do clear cache and do what I can to try to get it to work at a reasonable pace. And I don't know if it's because I've now it's attached to my GitHub and it's reading GitHub or to another stuff, but it's just slow. So I'm eager to get to 5.6 to see if it's going to be any faster. Interested to hear your guys' opinions on it's cheaper. I don't know if it's so much that the cost of the tokens are going down, but it's claiming that it's doing more for fewer tokens. So the net result is it'll be less expensive. They can still jack up their token prices. They're going to have to jack up their token prices like we've talked about in prior episodes. But if you could use fewer of them to get more done, that's going to be pretty exciting for me. So I haven't gotten my hands on it yet. I will say I did pop into just a brand new chat in GPT right before we started the pod, and there was a new UI feature at the very top of the screen where you toggle between chat and work. And I quickly went over to work, and it like brought up like, did you know you can use this for work? And I didn't want to read everything that was there. I went back to chat, and then I posted, my prompt that was in there. So that was new to me. I've never noticed that or seen that before in my chat experience until literally 2 minutes before we went on air.
Yeah, they copied Claude on that, by the way.
It's kind of buried because they went through a lot of benchmarks like they always do and everything else. But there's an element of this where this is OpenAI becoming the everything AI, right? Which again, we were talking about how ridiculous that was, and it's going to be hard to pull off and everything else. But they now have something that is like OpenClaw, right? So they've basically got a protected version of effectively OpenClaw where you can do local machine stuff. It's now writing code on the fly to figure when it has to do stuff that needs code to do it. Right? It can dynamically write code. So it's got Codex actually is the GPT. They're blending it so there's no delineation between all these things. And slowly but surely, they want to be the everything box. I can't wait to see, like, do they just completely change course off of that? Because everybody says, like, I don't want one everything box. I want specialty boxes, like we were talking about.
Sorry, I actually see you on mute, so I wanted to chime in because one of the things I was thinking about this is because I was watching the market, the prices of like Micron and all these manufacturers, they're going down. We're releasing all this stuff, and I'm thinking like, why is it going backwards when the cost of compute, token prices, like all of this stuff should be all going up? And I'm wondering like, why is this happening, especially with when you get news like this and with everything that Claude was doing. So that was kind of going through my mind as I was reading through the article. I was going, something seems off here. Like, I get it that you want to reduce the token cost. You'd want to make it more malleable for the businesses. And I really couldn't even put it together in my own head because ROI is a big deal. I know what we're facing at Land Gorilla is token costs. It's like, we got to turn this off. We got to turn that off. Oh man, this is too much. Okay, let's rethink this just in order to get stuff done.
But isn't this a little more like the combustion engine where you had, fuel going in at 70 cents a gallon, but you were only getting like 10 miles to the gallon. And then they started making cars go 40 miles per gallon. And yeah, you may be paying $3 a gallon, but at some point in there was a mix where the cost of fuel and the cost of going to where you got to go was still equal to as if the price was 75 cents a gallon as you increase the miles per gallon. And I think what they're doing is if they can make the model more efficient and more, use less tokens in its process. Well, I think Rob, you had brought up earlier that the token cost is kind of, it's going to go up, but who cares if you're getting more for the token? You're actually going to get net benefit. So I don't know. I guess the proof is in the pudding.
So I have to ask, and maybe it's too early in the episode to ask this question, but where did they go from here? Like, there's so much packed into this model, and sure, you can make it smarter, but the only things that it feels like you can really effectively do is make it faster and make it cheaper. Like, sure, yes, it can learn more, but how much more does it need to learn for what we're asking it to do?
The goal of everything: faster, cheaper, better, stronger.
But if you just tell me that all they have left to do is to make it faster and cheaper, then I'm selling short all these vendors because that's a race to the bottom on price. That's a commodity race, right? If they can do another 5.6 over and over and over, which maybe they can, right? If they do that over and over, then they're going to keep wowing and they'll keep getting paid. But and then is there enough field of stuff to do like with what they're doing? It just feels like at some point it runs out.
So you just earlier said now they've got Codex built in. It's writing its own code to get stuff done. That's a huge new behind the scenes soon to be exposed feature that didn't exist. And if you think about the changes that OpenAI made over the past year, where they shut down their video generation Sora product and they spun something else down, and they clearly put their energy and resources behind this release. Because I bet if we go back 30 episodes or 25 episodes, and it was the one when 5.5 came out, our kind of take was, so what, right? Like it wasn't significant. This one feels significant, right? If all the things that they claim in the report, in their own advertising, is true, this is a significant step forward, faster, economical, new features and stuff like that. And I'm gonna say that if your question, Mario, was really just based on the foundation model of the LLM being generative, yeah, maybe it's kind of hitting max, right? If on the other hand it is, well, what are the things are they doing? The add-ons, which used to be called apps, now they're called plugins. So the plugin integration that it is supporting, that's in its infancy, right? I still compare that to the iPhone App Store 6 months after the iPhone came out. There's not that many to choose from. A year from now, there's going to be 10 million apps integrated into OpenAI, right? And that whole infrastructure that they need to support and make stuff that gets better, the ability for it to have a longer memory on things is going to continue to get better. The ability for you to, when a thread gets too big and the context window is overwhelmed, to be able to just click a button that's like compressed to this. We did all this research. We made 10 decisions. I don't want to start a new thread and do a handoff. Like, let me click the button, ignore everything that led to this point. There are places where they can continue to make this product better and give us more tools to make it more impactful for all of us.
I think that's a great point, because I didn't even think about that as we go through this, because if it's just speed, then it's just speed. But as we grow this app store for AI and to be able to make our conversations much more efficient, because I do that all the time. Like my conversations are so long and then I have to wait for it to compress. And then I'm like, oh, geez, I don't want to do that. It takes half an hour for that to happen. And then I'm like, okay, well, give me the verbiage to hand off to a new conversation. And there's risks with that. It's, I didn't even think about that, but that's a great point. Maybe the growth is.
So is there a moat this way? Like, is there anything that stops everybody else from building, all the integrations as well? Because every vendor that they're going to integrate to wants to integrate to everybody. Maybe there'll be some exclusives, but everybody wants to be on every AI, right?
The only moat I could see is if you have exclusivity contracts, but that's, you have those now. I don't know.
Isn't this table stakes though? This is table stakes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's sure they can do it, but it's not a differentiator, right? It's a temporary differentiator that ultimately everybody adopts, and they just everybody's got it. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, so in our previous episode, we basically super simplified said, you're probably going to be using open source models somewhere in the mix of the things you do, because there are things that don't need the all-knowing, ever awesome, fully trained on the universe model, right? And so this open source is a cheap, efficient, cheaper, not free, way to access that stuff and be able to do it. What stops open source from co-opting all of these capabilities?
I don't know if is an obvious blocker.
Yeah,
and
I would say nothing.
Yeah, but
money.
They might not do it tomorrow. That's for sure.
Yeah. But you ever think about it? If it's always getting better, look where I think you said this, Rob. You said all the information that's available in all human beings is available through the large language model. I mean, effectively, maybe 99.99. I don't know if there's some unknown facts in some small tribe in the middle of the Amazon that may or may not know it, but probably does.
Just make sure we always carve out corporate knowledge is not included, right? Things that
Okay,
companies know,
fair enough. Fair enough.
know is not a part of the model training.
But as you get faster, better, strong, I mean, at some point, where are you losing your broad base of customers in? I don't need that, and that's maybe the advent of the Sol, Terra, Lunar. You know, the different versions of ChatGPT, where the guys, even I would say, even like us, that aren't necessarily we're not using them to go to Mars. We're not using them to go to the moon. We're not using it to do stuff, create a better something. We're just creating software to help businesses do more and do better business and be compliant and that kind of thing. At what point is it too much for us? Like, yeah, that's great. I'm glad you're improving it, but I almost feel like we're going to get to a point where if Microsoft came out with a new version of Word, I'd be like, yeah, so why do I need to buy it? I have everything I need in the current version. What are you selling me? And I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get to that. We always talk about AGI. What about NGI? I mean, we don't, I don't want any more. I'm done. You're on mute, Mario, or somehow.
That's the AI I never asked you to give me. So can we just pause for a second? And I need a quick poll. And whether you do use Claude or OpenAI, ChatGPT, or something else. So at least there's some sanity to Sol, Terra, Luna. It's the sun, Earth, moon, the biggest one, the medium-sized one, the small one. When given the option, do you ever use anything other than the max model? I don't use the max reasoning, but I will use the strongest model, and I almost never come off of it. I don't understand why I would.
I'm still on it.
Really?
Yeah.
So, but I have a small problem over there on the Claude side, because Claude is Haiku, very short. Sonnet, got some length to it. Opus, quite long. Fable, a Fable is not longer than an Opus, is it? Fable is their large model now.
I haven't noticed.
I don't know. They ran out of room.
Right. Their music analogy just fell apart. But do you guys ever use anything other than the big model?
Yeah, I actually do use the other model. I mainly in chat, I'm on Instant. Because I complained earlier, it's already slow. If I get on a bigger, slower, higher thing of one, it's gonna be that much even slower. And I find the quality that I get out of it is good enough. I'm getting my stuff done. It's making good decisions. It's helped me move forward. Maybe I should try a different model to see if it's faster or not faster. And actually, GPT 5.6 Sol literally just showed up on my machine. So that release that's happening today has made it out to my machine. So I'll try it and let you guys know what I think of that. I do find, and for those of you who haven't followed along the craziness that I do with my quote unquote vibe coding, I use chat agents as architects and code reviewers, and I use Cursor as my actual software developer. And I find I keep Cursor in the auto mode, which is the cheapest model it can find at the moment to use, because the prompts that my architect AI are kicking out to pass over to Cursor are so specific in the instructions that the stupidest model can perform and do a really good job at it. So, we've go back to episode number 3 that I think was the first one I was on, and it was all about prompt engineering and putting the right prompt in and garbage in, garbage out, right? So it still comes down to how good of a prompt are you putting in to get out what you need to get out of it. So to answer your question, Mario, I really haven't played with the different models to give an opinion, and maybe I should.
Well, I did notice in that pricing, it said the price, the cost per token on the input versus the output costs were much higher. So if you're giving it good input, and this is my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, and am I reading this the wrong way? If you're giving it solid input, like Rob just described, then it has to do less tokens on the output because it's so specific. So you're going to reduce your costs. Not only you're going to increase your speed, you're going to also reduce your costs and still be efficient in your token use because you are a prompt master. You are the controller of the prompt universe, and you're very tight with them. So you're almost adding a layer, you're removing a layer of AI that has to happen if you give it loose prompts. So
yeah, I think I agree. I think if you take a step back and think about what the models are doing, right? They're performing unbelievably complex algorithmic calculations. It's all math, right? Everything that these things are kicking out, it all just comes down to math. And the more leeway you give it, the more math has to happen for it to come up with a result that may or may not be what you're looking for. But the calculations are enormous and they're happening tremendously quickly and all that other stuff. The more specific and comprehensive your prompt, the less math it has to do to figure out what it is that you're actually asking, and the less searching it has to do across its universe of knowledge that it has. So it does make sense that longer, more comprehensive prompts will be cheaper for it to process and give you output for. It makes total sense.
So Ben, what does that mean for your company? I mean, you're saying you want the ROI on it. You got to get that going. What does that? How do you handle prompt engineering?
Well, the first thing that came to mind was listening to Rob, because since episode 3, and every time I listen to you guys talk, I'm thinking, man, if I had just had one Rob in the company, we'd probably do a lot better. And I'm thinking, yeah, we just don't have that. So our time is spent teaching people how to prompt. So our biggest challenge isn't that we're writing great prompts so we can leverage this amazing ROI. Our biggest challenge is getting people to prompt intelligently enough that we're leveraging everything he just mentioned, right? So that's, I think the bigger point here is that there's a gap between the Rob Katzes of the world and the rest of us normal humans, right? And we got to figure out how to elevate that a little bit in order for us to take advantage of some of these things, in order for us to really understand true ROI, to actually model it out, all that kind of stuff, and make businesses much more effective.
Let's create a Rob Katz agent. Hey Rob, what would you do?
would you guys agree that translates? And I'm throwing myself under the bus here because I use the top model because honestly I'm lazy. That if you're not as good at prompt engineering or you don't spend the time doing it, you ought to use the bigger model because it's going to do more work and it will help you get to a better answer. Whereas if you are refined, tight, really good with your streamlined prompts, you can get away with the lesser models, like Rob says, and be efficient.
I see your logic, but there's a point where you reach the minimal prompt engineering that goes into it could produce a wide array of results that cause you to be fishing in the dark, trying to figure out what did it just give me back? That didn't really answer my question, because you didn't engineer anything about your prompt. You just said, what is life all about? It's like, well, yeah, okay. What does that mean?
Well, so let me give a little more insight into some of my methodologies too. So under my $20 a month subscription for ChatGPT Team or Pro, whatever it's called, I can have unlimited custom GPTs. So if there's a topic that I know that I'm going to return to, I take the time to go build this custom GPT. And I actually have a custom GPT that is called Rob's Custom GPT Builder. And so I go to it and I say, I need a custom GPT to help me understand, to help me prepare for the AI Riff podcast. And I explain what the AI Riff podcast is and what the structure is. It generates the instruction set that I then use to go create the custom GPT. So I have a GPT that is trained to create instructions for custom GPTs. So I create the instruction set. It tells me what documents to attach, because part of the custom GPT is it's got ready documents that it pulls into a RAG behind the scenes so it can access them at any time to get real information. So then I've got my custom GPT. My prompts, once I'm in a custom GPT, are trivial, because the instructions that are 7,800 characters long give it all the structure that it needs so that I don't have to write out the long prompts. When I just hit new chat and I'm not in a custom GPT, I'm like everyone else, man. I'm lazy. I put in stupid prompts and I try to think through how to do it right. I'm going to say that 90% of my interactions with the chat GPT, though, is through a custom one that I build. And again, if it's a topic I'm going to come back to over and over again, I take the time to put really good out there. And I've got my tool that helps me build them.
So this dog is getting tired. I'm gonna try to take us home here. So a slightly different theme, but we hit on this actually, I think, in our last episode, and I want to go the same place. In our last episode, we said design still matters, right? Don't fire your technical architect because the way you design things matters. I'm going to ask the question slightly differently of you guys. Short answers only, please. Are software developers going to take over the world? And I'm saying that because of this conversation, right? If you look at the way Rob has structured something, and Rob, I'm making you a software developer today. If you look at the way somebody's structured can leverage this tool more so than the average person, right? And really ratchet up $20 a month, $200, whatever it is, whatever the number is, right? And really get more out of it. Like, isn't that in the survival of the fittest? Aren't those the people who are going to survive?
Are they software developers or
I'm calling Rob one.
Yeah, would you consider Elon Musk a software developer or an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur. I doubt Elon does much coding.
Okay.
So side point, Grok just released a new version.
Of course they did, because they had to. Because GPT just released their version. That's just what happens. I don't think they will. I think they will always be. Software developers are good at getting. Someone has an idea. They're not idea people. To me, there are some. Don't get me wrong. There's some idea people that are software developers, but majority, I think, of the software developers are not the idea people. They take someone else's idea and they go, "Oh, I can do that. I can build that. I can make it fast. And they get excited and they run with the idea. But the idea people are still, I think, and have always been the ones that rule the world. The people who have the ideas. And get the right people around them, the software developers, to build, or the mechanical engineers or the structural engineers or whoever it is to build what it is that their idea out of their head and into practice.
So I'm gonna interrupt before Ben gets a chance to go, because Mario said something very important. He redefined what a software developer is, and he's defined it as what I am. Like, I have not. My app is 285,000 lines of code now. Like, TypeScript code, right? It's a big app.
Tighten that up.
I know. It's a big app. It does a lot. I haven't written a single line of code myself, right? But I came up with the idea. I learned how to use the tools, and I'm developing this enterprise SaaS, high security, excellent architecture system, not as a software engineer, but I'm clearly developing software because I learned how to use the tools. And I'm the idea guy.
Well, I would simply say you're not a software writer. Engineer still is designed to me. Like, I think an engineer is still in the same category. So go ahead, Ben. Software developers taking over the world? Yes or no?
Unfortunately, I think you guys have already answered the question. I mean, at the end of the day, your product guys, those guys, when they become your prompt product engineers, they're the ones that are going to be ruling the world. And to Kyle's point earlier, the software developer is just taking it and empowering whatever those ideas are in code. You don't need to do that anymore, right? So the people that are taking over the world are your prompt product engineers. I mean, you're those guys, to exactly to Rob's point. They don't need to write the code, but they're the ones with the ideas making it happen. So because that's actually something we're struggling with at the organization now. Like, how does that affect the org dev? Because there's that whole aspect of it when you think about human resources and all of that, the impact to that, And a lot of these developers looking that kind of right in the face and saying, what are we going to do about this shift? We see it. We don't want to see it, right? And so they've got to step up and become prompt engineers, and they've never had to think about this stuff in their life. They've just had to take requirements and just build code. So this is a huge shift. It's a huge exercise in change management that's occurring everywhere.
Mario, what's your thoughts on it? You didn't answer.
I think I'm in sync with these guys. I actually think in the way I asked the question, even with my distorted view of what a programmer is, I would say it really isn't. They're not really the ones that are going to take over the world. Anybody who can do this, right? Anybody with discipline, who has the discipline to approach these tools in such a way that they use the tool to build tool. That's a super simplified way of talking about one of the things Rob was on, right? Use the tool to build the tools that do the work. Anybody who has that discipline, I think, will be highly successful in the next 5 to 10 years.
And you also brought, it used to be the idea person had to have all these people surrounded by people and resources and channels of way to get things done. You just brought that all into the idea person that's in his garage that works at Kentucky Fried Chicken during the day. And he's I got a great idea. And he can you empowered that person to actually try to build that idea in real life.
So I know our dogs are getting tired, but I want to respond to that and say that there is a baseline set of knowledge that somebody needs to have to understand how to conduct and orchestrate a team of AI, to build the AI agents, to orchestrate that work, to understand how to get your development environment set up and all that other stuff. You can use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever and ask the questions and be instructed and get step by step. Here's how you do these things. I learned because I asked questions of the AI agents to tell me how to go do stuff. Now I'm proficient at it. I don't have to ask how do I launch dbeaver to get to my databases. Like I know how to do that now, but I didn't know the first time. I didn't have a clue how to set up a local Postgres SQL database on my machine. And ChatGPT just walked me through it. So, using your example, Kyle, of someone who works at a KFC who wants to do this, who may be listening to us and going, wouldn't even know how to get started. Well, you just open up ChatGPT and go, how do I get started doing vibe coding? Mm-hmm. Literally, right? And it'll produce the instructions and you follow the instructions. So there really is a very, very low bar in terms of being able to get into this and understand it and have fun with it.
Yeah, we talked about moats earlier. There's no moat.
There is no moat to getting started. That is correct.
It is also why the value of traditional SaaS software companies is plummeting. Right, the multiples they're way down because Yahoos like me are building this massive enterprise application with, I got a business partner who's a subject matter expert. He doesn't ever touch the code, and I got me, and the two of us are going to come to market with a product that would normally have taken 6 years to develop in a team of 50 people, and it's just us doing it in a year and a half. So yeah, the values on software companies are just plummeting right now.
So I want to put out there a potential next episode, maybe more than potential. I think it would be interesting to imagine, given there's no moat and given our education system, like 5 years from now, when you have a host of, I'll say kids, who came out of high school, grade school, college, who lived this. They were just handed AI and they were taught, this is what you do, you vibe code, right? What's the world look like then?
That will be a good episode. But right now, I know my dog's paws need salve, and I'm going to have to give them the good treats. So
Ben's got closing thoughts. What do you got, Ben?
So there's this great book that I read many, many, many years ago called A Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink, and Why Right-Brainers Will Rule the World. And I'm kind of taken back to that book thinking, this is exactly what's happening with all this technical architecture. It's not left brain that's really empowering the future of AI. It's back to the right brain.
I don't know which is which, so you have to explain it.
Right's the logical.
Okay.
Left is
Right's
right. Is that correct?
Maybe I have it backwards. No, right brain is the no. Hold on, you got me confused now. No, right brain is the artistic inventors, storytellers. That's the right brain.
Okay.
Left brain is the other side. So the whole time we're talking, I'm thinking, wow, I read this book a ton of time ago. I have my undergrad's in art, right? And so I'm thinking through this, and I'm thinking, wow, now all of a sudden the artists of the world, with simple prompting, can make their visions come to life, whether it's SaaS software or whatever it may be. And it seems interesting to me that we seem to have come full circle.
Well, Donald Fagen did predict it in 1982 when he said,
Yes, he
just
did.
machine and make big decisions, programmed by fellows with compassion and vision.
The fact that you referenced Donald Fagen just you notched up a notch with me, Mario.
Yeah. Well, on that high note, I'm going to say that I'm Kyle Myers.
I'm Rob Katz.
I'm Ben Sizemore.
And I'm still Mario De Benedetto.
And this has been the AI Riff.
Wires hum like whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing strange under neon light. Digits spinning fast like a gambler's hand. The clock chimes change, it's the new command. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Binary prophets ride in fading streams. Data flows like rivers fueling all our dreams. Simple or savvy, it's all the same path. Under skies of innovation, we redraw the map. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Set the rhythm to the beat of change we sing. Every click and hum a key that rings. A revolution, quiet, but it's vast. Building empires where echoes of futures cast.